Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens. This is Jake, and we are excited because it's the best time of the year to be a Louisvillian or to be visiting the Derby City. That's right, Derby's right around the corner, and we are excited to talk about something really unique, something that has raised a lot of eyebrows, and that is non-fungible tokens. We'll get into that, but more importantly, Louisville's own Party Horses. So Chris Wiedmar, co-founder, is here joining Scott and I on the Bourbon Lens. So Chris, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to talking NFTs, bourbon, and to your point, my opinion, the best time in the city of Louisville and the state, Derby week coming up. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, of course. And the race is starting to take shape. So we have to talk a little bit about the ponies, but we were talking a little before the podcast is we got our first dose of weather. That was really nice. It was 80 degrees over the weekend. And I have to say, I just have a feeling Derby's going to snow or something now because we got it like 2 weeks too early.
Don't jinx us.
Oh yeah. No, we do a big Derby party at the house every year. It's actually our 10th one. And yeah, and that's my wife was already asking about it. I'm like, just plan on a monsoon. That's what it's been half the years anyways. You know, we get a big tent. I'm like, people will still be here. They want bourbon, they want beer, they want to bet on some horses. So, you know, it's taken a little bit of a twist because now it's more kids instead of adults, but that's just how life works, I guess. So, but no, I agree with you. Snow, monsoon, it'll be something. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
We're ready for it regardless, right?
110%. So this is, as a local, right? You're from here and, have you been to the festivities or, if you haven't, or if you do, like which one is your preferred? And because you now can throw in Thurby.
Yeah, it's crazy. This will be my first time actually going to Thurby this year. So I mentioned, the past 10 years, we've been doing a party at the house, more just out of convenience. I think the last time we went, we took a bus with like 80 people and you lose half the people you come with at Derby. And, so, this will be the first time, as a couple, we've gone back in years. I would usually go out on Wednesdays, which is probably one of my favorite days. It's not as crowded. There's a lot of companies and corporations that have some booths and suite set up. So you can kind of bounce around and, get some free food and drinks and mingle. And so Wednesday has always been kind of my favorite day, but I think we're starting to see that, Thursday used to be an easy day to get into. Now it's packed, and I'm sure it's just going to keep trickling down to where it's like, the best time to go is like 2 weeks before when it opens. So I just feel like it's just gaining in popularity more and more, which is a good thing for the city. But for us locals, it's kind of like hard to find like a great day for us to kind of sneak out there and have some fun.
Yeah, no kidding, Scott. Like growing up, did you ever hit Oaks or Derby?
I only hit Oaks like once growing up. My parents always had a big Derby party every year. So that's kind of where we still do that. I don't really miss not going to the race on Derby Day. I'd rather just have a chill day or have a party, but to where I'm not worried about how I'm getting somewhere and what I'm dressed up as,
Dressed up, or what are you doing some costumes for Derby?
Yeah.
I mean, it is
stand out.
Yeah. Hey, there's some crazy stuff.
There are
happens.
some characters there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing about Louisville is all the schools close, right? So I went to Manual at high school, and so a lot of us would do that. We would do cleanup after, Oaks to raise money, or Derby to raise money. So, I was there after Derby, but I got my first taste of Derby when I was a junior, and my dad gave me and my buddy infield tickets to an infield suite, and we couldn't find out where the suite was. Cell phone was terrible. Text messaging was terrible. And so we just randomly walked into this person's suite and they were like, "You're lost. You have infield suite tickets. You can just hang out with us." So we just hung out with some random 40 and 50 year olds. And they just gave us, okay, I won't say that on podcast, but they gave us hospitality.
The Kentucky way.
Yeah, the Kentucky way. They were hospitable, that's for sure. So I always like to ask that. Now, this is the most important question. When it comes to betting the big race, do you have any in particulars that you look for in a horse or position? Like if Calvin Burrell or Calvin Borel is running, do you want that one position if Calvin's on the horse, or do you have any superstitions around that?
Sometimes I do. It just depends, really. Like I said, I like stories, you know what I mean? And I know it's a little cheesy in a way, but it's like, we all act like we know what's going to happen. It's no different than a stock, you know what I mean? You think you got a good idea, but then the gates open and who knows what's going to happen. So I don't know. I've been fortunate. I've got some friends in the industry that are bloodstock agents, and they typically know, some other folks on the training side. So I'll try to hit those guys up, but they don't even know. You know what I mean? It's so unpredictable. So I like a good story, and then I typically kind of go from the trainers as well. Who's got some horses? Obviously Baffert not being there this year will be interesting. The Louisville Forum hosted a luncheon last week I went to. It was pretty interesting. It was debating the merits of the Derby this year, and is it at risk of losing some credibility because of the past few years? And it was one of the guys on the panel was Baffert's attorney that's representing him. And man, I mean, Scott being an attorney, I'm sure you can appreciate, but this guy's like a trial attorney out of Tulsa, represented who was the girl that Trump had the affair with recently. But I mean, like, this guy like dominated the debate. It wasn't even up for, even though like the local guys made really good points, but like at the end of it, I was like, Bob Baffert needs to be here. Like, he convinced me, you know what I mean, that like that's what you need is the star in the show. And so I kind of go by trainers. Like I said, with Baffert not being there, I'll be interesting this year. But at the end of the day, I just want it to be a good race. It's fun to see a couple long shots, at least plays for show as well, to somebody make a little money on the bets too. So yeah, that's kind of my strategy more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Scott, you ever place any mutuals, or do you just kind of pull a name out of a hat and you get your $10?
We do the name out of a hat. I am never good at betting horses. It's just, I could pick the favorite and the long shot would come in every single time.
Yep.
So that's just my luck.
Yeah. So,
or the favorite, the favorite would go crazy and in the gate, and he would never get out of the gate. That would be my luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know that game.
Yeah, I set a number on Derby Day, and I go by the wife and I say, "Hey, is this number cool to deposit in my Twin Spires account?" And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Is that, if you don't get to add any more money, that gets you to Derby?" So I always have to pace myself. But I'll be looking at the pin draw, the position draw here next week, I think, and excited for the horses. It's just fun, right? It's just a great time of the year. We got some cool work stuff happening the week of, and then we get to go to Thurby, so we're excited to do that, and we're excited for a good year. I heard through a marketing firm they're expecting this to be the biggest Derby ever.
I can see that. I think you've had people that have been, cooped up inside, and it's been they had a limit the past few years, and so yeah. I mean, I think if Thunder over Louisville's any indication, I think Derby will show out, and I'd be stunned to your point. Pending it's not a monsoon or a snowstorm, that will. I think we'll put on a good show, and I think it'll be the biggest one we've had too. So I don't doubt that for a second.
So speaking of betting, right? You're kind of a betting man here. So I'm going to ask one question before we actually get into the business side of these. So part of the betting side of this is the stock market or the crypto market. And so for the layman, because Scott sent me this text message before we started. And so what's an NFT? And like with an emoji. And so
it was what the hell is an NFT again?
Yeah. So, for the layman, can you just try to give us the basics of what an NFT is, or a non-fungible token?
Yeah. So NFTs, and I say this all the time, whoever created the name was not a marketing major. I mean, it's like the worst name in the world, right? I mean, non-fungible tokens is like, what does this even mean, right? To your point, I spend more time explaining that to people than I explain party horses, right? And so really what it means, like what I always try to break it down is like a fungible token is something that can be one of, it can be one of many. So if you look at like a dollar bill, that's a fungible token. You have a dollar bill. If I give you $1 and you give me $1 back, it's the same thing, right? Now, like a Mona Lisa is a one of one. That's a non-fungible token. There's not 50 Mona Lisas out there. There's one. And so kind of building on that is if you took the Mona Lisa example and you put it into crypto terms, I'm sure we've all heard names like blockchain and Bitcoin and stuff like that. But really what you're doing is these NFTs, they sit on the blockchain, and that's where they are. So it's, the popular NFTs right now that a lot of people talk about are more on the digital art side of things. So you'll hear words like Bored Ape Yacht Club. Justin Bieber spent $3 million on a Bored Ape Yacht Club, and it's just a digital JPEG, right? That's what a lot of us see. And there's typically, there's not a lot of real intrinsic utility or value behind it outside of people that can create hype and markets around it. And timing is a big thing as well. But, for us, when we started talking about party horses, that's what we said, hey, we want to do really, really cool art. And that's when we brought on Robbie Davis from the artist standpoint, and he built the art, he created the art. But we wanted to add utility as well, right? Outside of like, hey, we're going to make 3,300 of these horses, and that's the only 3,300 we'll ever make. We looked at it and we said, well, what else can we provide value for? I mean, if people are going to spend, at the time it was $500, between $500 and $600 to buy one of these things. What else are they getting outside of what we say is rare and supply and demand? And that's where we had the ideas around. We saw that the event side of things were lacking in the NFT space, and access in general. And then, with us playing on horses and where we live in Kentucky, we said, well, what if we could give everybody that bought a party horse a bottle of bourbon with it, a physical bottle of bourbon, right? So that way you're kind of bridging that gap, right, of this digital world, this metaverse that people talk about, and real world. And so that's where we were like, well, man, that'd be really cool if we could figure that out. And that's what we did. We got together. We had there's a team of about 10 of us, all with different backgrounds. And we said, how do we make this a reality? How do we do it in a pretty short, a 3-month window? How do we build a brand, and how do we get this out to the masses? And that's what we did, starting essentially January 1 to make this thing a reality. So yeah. So in NFTs, they don't have to be art. I apologize. Let me go back to your original question. You could be, you could be Jack Harlow, and Jack Harlow could create a song that's an NFT, that's an NFT. And, he can make it just where he'll only sell it to Jake. And Jake's the only person that owns this Jack Harlow digital music NFT. I've got a friend out of Cincinnati that's doing a movie. You have to be part of this NFT club. And that's how you get the token, you get access. So right now, the popular pieces, though, that you see are digital art, or PFPs, profile pictures, of what you see. But I mean, the cool thing is it's very early in its infancy of where this thing is and where it's going. So I think that's, for us, was a lot of fun as well, where it's kind of the Wild West. We're starting with this basic premise that we believe in and we think has value. What this looks like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I mean, who knows? It's anybody's guess. But, we were very bullish on it. And the cool thing was to see our team come together and everybody jump in feet first and go after this thing. So it's been a lot of fun.
In a kind of an offshoot, it kind of reminds me of the Derby horses that used to be scattered around Louisville, right? Because they were very specific, and like your all's horses, as they were minted, and God forbid that I actually know what that means, but I know that there was a mint day, and then everyone got their horses. That's about as far as my knowledge goes. But they all became different, right? You could go from an infield person to Trillionaires Row, somewhere in between that. And I did do a little bit of reading, and I had a crash course, and one of the other partners, Zach, is a good friend of mine, kind of gave me a crash course in what it was. So it's nice to have some people on the backside before you actually have the podcast tell you what's going on. So when you all start to come up with this concept, right, you say, hey, we like this idea of NFTs. We like this idea of bourbon. Where did the horses come together? And then ultimately, where did this partnership come from? Because that's the big part of this, like this idea and this partnership with Maker's Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our original concept, and I don't know if Zach explained this to you, was we had two things that we wanted to do before this. One was actually to create our own cryptocurrency, like a Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? But this would actually be backed by inflation-proof assets and not speculative like Bitcoin is. And I won't bore you with that, but it would have taken a lot of money, and it would have taken a lot of time to build that. And I think we still will do it, but nobody's really done anything in this Web3 world on our team yet. And so we said, let's kind of ease in a little bit. So then I mentioned Brooke on our team. Brooke is big into bourbon, big into horses. And he's like, well, just throw all my race horses on the blockchain and then sell them fractionalized shares for Bitcoin. And we're like, whoa, that's insane. And would be a ton of fun. But we were like, once again, there's some legalities that we don't know it's kind of gray. And that's when Zach had the idea to kind of be like, hey, let's do an NFT. And in particular, let's do an NFT that we called Party Horses. And it was kind of a flip on if the horses went to the racetrack to watch the humans race. And Jake, you touched on it a little bit. We created 5 different classes of horses, from infield horses all the way up to Trillionaires Row. And the look and feel of those horses shows that, right? So the infield horses might be wearing a church camp cutoff shirt and drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette. And, the Trillionaires Row horses are in a 3-piece tuxedo with a monocle and everything in between. And so that was the genesis of the art and the story, right? Because I think with anything, if you're, we look at it as, yeah, it's an NFT, but we look at Party Horses as a brand. And if we're building a brand, you've got to have a good story to get people's attention, right? And so Robbie Davis did the art. And I think it's, you mentioned the word minting, and what minting means is essentially the day that you launch your NFTs and people buy them, right? And so ours is what's called a generative project. And what that means is Robbie didn't hand draw 3,300 horses. He hand drew 50 different mouths, 20 different sunglasses, 10 different hats, right? And then what we did is we built out a rarity curve. So there was only going to be 300 Trillionaires Row horses. And we did, I'm going to get to the Maker's Mark piece here in a second. And we did 20 specific Maker's Mark horses that had red wax on the hats or Maker's Mark sunglasses. And if you got those, that was kind of like a Willy Wonka experience that you would also get on top of buying the horse. And so you do all that, you make the rarity curve, and essentially you kind of put some computer code around it, put it in a blender, and it's randomly generated what these horses look like. So we have no idea what 3,300 horses are going to look like. Now, we did a number of tests, but that's what you got. And so we minted those out on March 15th. Now, going back to kind of what I was talking about earlier, we saw an opportunity outside of building really cool art, showcasing horses. What if we could provide first-class events to our NFT holders? If you look, we've done a number of meetups and happy hours in a couple different cities. We're doing our first major party on May 6th, the night before Derby, downtown, and we've got Diplo performing, and another big DJ named DJ Irie, and so it'll be fun. And we'll have about 400 of our NFT holders will be there. The cool thing is, if they couldn't make it, they were airdropped a ticket, and now the ticket itself is an NFT, a separate NFT, but they could sell that. So we've had a number of members we've got people that live in Africa. I think we've got every continent except Alaska, Antarctica. So we got people, like a guy in Africa just sold his ticket the other day to somebody locally, right? Which is crazy. But the cool thing was, going back to the utility piece, he owns the horse that he paid, let's say, $500 for. And then he just sold this ticket to an Oaks night party for $200. So he's making money off his NFT, which is pretty cool. And we'll do some more of these throughout the year. We're looking at some things that would maybe tie with like the Belmont and Preakness maybe, or definitely on Breeders' Cup. We'll do something down in Lexington. But anyways, so we wanted to address the event side of things and access for NFT holders. But like I said before, we really, really wanted to do a physical bottle of bourbon to showcase our state and our pride and what we're known for, right? Horse racing and bourbon. And so, just through my network and relationships that I've had, I pretty much knew a lot of the players at the major brands throughout the state, and could get a meeting. And at that time, NFTs are like they are now. It's booming. Everybody's talking about it. Half the people don't know what they're talking about, but they're talking about it. And so, the cool thing was, we had approached Maker's Mark, with literally just like the concept and the idea. And you're reading cues. This is a Zoom call right after New Year's, and you're like, okay, what are they going to say? And Craig Jackson and Valerie Netherton on the marketing side over there on the digital side, they were like, yeah, that makes sense. We get it. We want to be involved with this. We want to partner with you guys. What do you need from us? And we're like, oh, okay. We were not expecting that at all. And so really the partnership we formed with them was, we said, hey, we want everybody to get a bottle of Makers. They started chipping in on some ideas. We're like, if you're they wanted their ambassadors to be involved in this, right? And so they sent out an email on a Thursday. I'll never forget. We were in New York City, and it was like, hey, the first 100 ambassadors that sign up for this NFT are going to get even a more ultra rare bottle of Party Horses Maker's Mark Collaborative. And like, I think we had over 1,000 people sign up in like a matter of like 12 minutes, something crazy like that. So like, we were literally had to like, hey, you all send out another email, tell them to quit emailing. It's like the first 100 went in the first minute, right? So it's really cool, the partnership we've done with Makers and where they've stepped up. So at the end of the day, we'll do 9 different bottles with them. The first 3 bottles we did, we in collaboration with them, they each have like 4 party horses on them, and they tell the story of the party horses. But the next 6 that we're doing that come with the NFTs, I mentioned the classes that we have, we're actually going to let our party horse community vote on what those bottles will look like. So Robbie Davis has created, I think, 3 different options for each class. So there'll be 3 different infield options to choose from, 3 different backside paddocks, all that kind of fun stuff. And really the cool thing is empowering our owners to vote on which label they like the best. And then Makers will put that into production for us, and we'll have those, and late summer. So we'll have 9 different bottles. The crazy thing is some of the bottles we already gave out before we had to halt production on a few things. I mean, you look in some of these Facebook groups, they've sold for $400 already a bottle, which is insane to me. But because it's a limited run and, we'll never do that bottle or that label again, and it is out of some of these are out of 300, some of these are out of 800 and everything in between. So there is some rarity there, right? And so then you have these people that want to collect all 9 bottles. And so it's been really cool to see that secondary market, how that works and operates. But yeah, I can't give makers enough credit. They didn't hesitate when we asked to partner. They jumped right in. They've given us everything we've asked for. And after that, we've been good partners in return. And then I mentioned too, as well, 20 of the horses themselves, 10 of the females and 10 of the male horses. The male horses have red wax on their top hat and the females have the red Maker's Mark sunglasses. Those 20 NFT holders will get, like I said, like a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory experience down at Makers. And I can announce it. That's going to happen on September 15th during the Bardstown Bourbon Festival. So there'll be a number of things that come with that. I can't mention all of that yet because Makers wants to be the ones to tell all those folks. But yeah, and there's plans to do a lot of other really cool things with those guys as well. Like they don't see it as a one-time deal. I mean, we got to tour the facility with Rob Samuels and Jane and the master distiller. I mean, they've really treated us like family down there in Loretto. And so, like I said, this is kind of, I think, how we look at it as a long-term partnership. And I think they do as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun working with those guys, and they're a great brand on top of it because I think, like we talked about before, they appreciate racing, they appreciate art, which is, kind of unique in this bourbon world. And they're not afraid to push the boundaries on the marketing and advertising side with something so new as an NFT, much less some horses that go to a racetrack to watch humans race. So they've been a lot of fun to work with.
Could you imagine Kentuckians running around a mile and a quarter track?
Oh God. I don't think people realize either like how thick that sand and dirt is. I mean, like it would be, say we had 20 people racing, I think you'd have 5 heart attacks easily.
And somebody reaching for their Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a given. And maybe even a cigarette, but you never know.
And that person,
my son could do it. He can run an 8-minute mile and he's not even 7 yet. So.
Oh, wow. Well, more power to it. Like you said, I'm not going to be the one out there racing, but I'll applaud those to do it.
Yeah. Not me.
No, it's definitely interesting. And you know, what's really, really cool is it's so local, right? I think that's the other thing that is really interesting about this is something so innovative is coming out of the city itself. And I think that's the cool thing is you all are taking bourbon to the world and horse racing to the world. And I think that's a really cool spotlight that not everyone gets. And in this technology space, because me and Scott talked about it, I own like $100 in crypto just to like figure out how Coinbase works. But I'm like, I'm too poor to buy a lot of Ethereum to like buy anything. So I'm like, I'll just, buy my chain link and see what happens just to figure it all out. And so that's what I think it turns a new person into bourbon and into Kentucky because they think we're an ass backward state sometimes. And I think it just sheds a little light onto, hey, Kentucky is somebody who's forward thinking and produces some really damn good whiskey.
You're spot on. And that was one of our goals for the project, right? I mean, I think if we wanted to market, directly to that NFT Web3 crypto crowd, we could have, solely focused on that. But our goal, to your point, was we want to get net new people into this, right? We want to get people that have never bought, never heard of Ethereum, never heard of NFTs, but, they were bourbon lovers, right? They wanted to get this bottle. So for us, it was trying to bring new people into the space. But, one of the biggest goals, to your point as well, was we want to shine a light on the state and on Louisville. They're like, yeah, we do have horse racing and bourbon, and that's great. But like, we're building some really cool cutting edge technology here as well. And it can be done here. Cause like our whole team, everybody on our team was out of Louisville and Lexington a little bit. And so for us, it was really to shine a spotlight on that. And then to say, hey, you can do cool stuff here in the state. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. That's for sure. And the cool thing is that, I think we're kind of associated as a Kentucky project, even though we've got a global community that's bought into this thing. Mm-hmm. That's been a lot of fun too.
Now, I think it's very interesting that you're tapping into actually 2 bourbon secondary markets, because I know like Maker's Mark collectors are a totally different breed.
Yeah.
They are like a subset in some instances. a totally different set of people than bourbon secondary people that are chasing limited rare bottles, things like that. So to tap into both of those markets, I think is very, very smart.
Well, what's interesting too, Scott, I tell this story. We were giving out some of those initial bottles that we had from makers more on the promo side. And so I had set up an event in Lexington. I'll never forget. It was like on a Tuesday morning. And I think I gave out, I don't know, maybe it was 10 cases. So 120 bottles. Right. And I had people, I told people, I'm like, hey, we'll start at 8 a.m. because I had to drive from Louisville. There's people waiting at 7 a.m. And it's like, guys, like you're all getting the same bottle. Like it's a different number, but you know what I mean? But you got people that are looking at the wax, inspecting it. And I'm like, guys, like it's all the same juice, but they're just, to your point, very specific on what they want. But I'll tell this story. There was a guy that was a farmer from I think he was from outside of Pikeville, right? So he made a long drive to Lexington to pick up this bottle. And he was like, dude, I couldn't tell you what an NFT was 2 weeks ago. But, to Jake's point, he's like, I've downloaded this app called Coinbase, and then I downloaded another wallet, and then I put Ethereum in it from my bank. And he's like, because I had to get this bourbon. And I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing that you got some 60-year-old farmer, right? And then it wasn't a day later, we had a bottle giveaway event in New York City. And we had a place set up where people were coming throughout the day to pick up their bottles. And the cool thing was at both of these things, people stayed and hung out with us for hours. It was very communal and very just cool to meet these folks because a lot of people are anonymous online. You don't know who, Big Guy 72 is, you know what I mean? Until you meet him, you're like, oh, I'm John Smith, right? And so, but I'm going from a farmer outside of Pikeville to a Wall Street banker who has the exact same interests as that guy, right? And they couldn't be more different in regards to, what they're wearing and probably how much they make a year, but they had that same interest around, I want to get this Maker's Mark bourbon. I want to get in this NFT. And so that's been one of the cool things as well. And eye-opening things for me is like all the different people that have come into this thing, whether it be for the bourbon, whether it be for the art, whether it be for the access to cool parties. It's been really eye-opening to see why and what the drivers are to get people into this thing.
Yeah, I think it's super, super interesting how all that works. And so I was a Maker's Mark collector. They've gone away from the Kentucky bottles that they did with Keeneland and done some other cool things. Great bottles. I just, was collecting them. But I would go to Liquor Barn on Friday, the first day of the fall meet, and I would buy my Kentucky bottle. And there was this guy every year. He would get there. He'd be like first in line, and he would go through 2 or 3 times. And he would like try to get the lowest number, the highest number that they had, and the one with the perfect wax. And this guy was like, and he was nuts. And he had it like all set out. He showed me his collection one time. He had probably, I kid you not, like 500 Maker's Mark bottles. And it was just like, of all things, bottles I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
And like, they're kind of like the guy who owns cuckoo clocks.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's what I think has been eye-opening as well, is like, I've seen these pictures, right, of these people's, it's not a bar. I mean, when you have 500 bottles of anything, there's no bar that's holding that. I mean, like, it's a room. And I've seen it as well. It's crazy. Like, different guys in our community will send pictures of their house, and you're just like, didn't even know they did that bottle. I've never seen that bottle. You know what I mean? And it's fascinating to see the passion and the commitment because, yeah, they live, breathe, to your point, waiting in line for 24 hours. That's light work for them.
Yeah. So speaking of community, one of the things I know, I have a coworker who actually hit me up because we posted something about Party Horses online, a little article, thanks to Scott on our Twitter. And she sent me a note and she's like, hey, what do you know about Party Horses? And I'm like, I have a friend, yada, yada. And she was like, my favorite thing about Party Horses is not the artwork. It's not the bourbon. Like those things are cool. It's the community. So in creating the conversation, you have a Discord, you have some other elements like parties and meet and greets. What's it like to, as you create this brand, but to also create a community of people that are in this together to do different things that you all may have planned down the road?
Yeah. I mean, it's been fascinating to see, right? I think as human beings, we clamor for community, right? I mean, you can read the research around it. There's a reason we've all banded together or aren't solo on our own, right? I mean, people want to be in a tribe, and seeing it, really where we play a lot is in Discord. And for your members that aren't aware of Discord, it's kind of just like if you go back to your AOL days, I mean, it's kind of just like a big chat room. And there's different subsets. I mean, we've got a bourbon channel in there that people talk about. There's just a general channel where people are chatting, everything in between. And so that's kind of your town square for Party Horses, right? And we've got I think we're around 3,700 people in that community. Now, not everybody's in there living, breathing, dying every day, but there's people that are in there quite a bit. And it's really cool to see. And so for us, and I think, to your friend's point, that's been the coolest thing for me as well, is the community that's been established. Like I think we're very authentic. We're very transparent as well. I mean, we share pretty much anything and everything with our community as far as where we're at and where we're going. But then we also want to empower the community too, right? I mean, for us, it's not just like 8 guys out of Louisville making decisions. It's also like, what do you all want to see? And so I'll give you an example. There was a West Coast crew that stays up past my bedtime that was chatting the other night. And they were like, it'd be really cool if our horses they were calling it horse fights, but it wasn't fighting. It was just like, you put Jake's horse against Chris's horse. And there's some code they created that would, on certain traits, and your horses would go through 3 rounds, and whoever won was the winner. And like, they shared it with the community. Everybody's like, oh, it'd be really fun. Fast forward to last Friday, they launched this thing. And I mean, they had, a couple hundred people like following live of people putting their horses up to do a horse rumble. And so like, there's just random things like that have come of this. Right. And like, but it's not us, right? Like our whole goal is like, hey, let's build this foundation. We'll keep it moving and we'll moderate it, make sure everybody's playing nice. But like, we want the community to kind of make it their own, you know what I mean? Craft it. What do they want to see? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be addressed? And that's what's really cool to me, both in Discord and on Twitter. And then also in the real world. I mentioned we've done some meetups, in 6 cities so far. And it's not like people are like, okay, thanks for my bottle. See ya. It's like I said, we were in New York City, the busiest city in the world. And I bet there was 60 people that picked up bottles that day. I bet 50 of them stayed for at least an hour to 2 hours, just kicking it, hanging out, chopping it up. And so to me, just the relationships and the people that we've met along the way have made it, such an amazing experience that, that's probably my favorite part as well. Just meeting all the different people and different backgrounds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was really interesting and telling that, like, she shot me a Teams message and was like, hey, and she was so proud of her bottle, but she was like, the Discord's great. Like, I can't wait to hear about it and all of those things. So talk to us a little bit about this party. And Diplo's not, you mentioned it, but Diplo's not a small name, right? He also goes by many other names.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like, booking one of the premier DJs in all of EDM?
Yeah. We knew we wanted to throw an awesome party during Derby week. And so first is trying to navigate that space, because none of us are party planners, right? I mean, we like going to parties, having fun. So a guy on our team, Joey Wagner, literally that's what he does. He throws probably 20 different parties that week. And he found us a great location downtown Louisville, a place called the Ice House. And so it's a great venue for what we're trying to do. And so we looked at a number of entertainers because, like I said, we wanted something that was a headline name to get attention, and learned a lot about how to book talent and entertainers. Learned that Drake was not in our budget. We talked to his manager, and we were a couple million short on that. And so, but anyways, we always knew we wanted someone like to your point, like an EDM, like a Diplo was who we always kept coming back to. Joey was fortunate to have a relationship with some guys that run nightclubs out at the Wynn in Las Vegas, who deal with these guys all the time. And so luckily a friend of ours out at the Wynn was like, look, I can put you guys in contact with Diplo's people. I think this would be the perfect event for him and you guys. And so really shout out to those guys out at the Wynn. They've been a great friend and partner to us. And so they kind of made that bridge for us. We did the, dealing with his agent and booking and, trying to find hotel rooms for 8 people during Derby week is always fun. And transportation and all that kind of fun stuff. But, the cool news thing was we were able to get him booked. He knows about Party Horses. We had some people that were out at Coachella that happened to talk to him. And he's like, dude, I love Party Horses. I love, And so, yeah, we're excited to have him, man. I think it'll be a different spin on kind of your traditional soirees and parties that, normally happen that week. So it'll be, I'm excited to see what comes of it, because I know a bunch of people are that hit me up for tickets, and thankfully I can kick them over to Joey and say, hey, you got to talk to him, or you got to get on OpenSea and you can buy one that way. But it's been really cool planning this out and putting a different spin on that week. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean it's not like the Barnstable Brown. Like this is a little bit different soiree. And for those who don't know, the Barnstable Brown and the Double Mint Twins, right? Like that's the big party that's always been. But I would say hanging out with Diplo and in an intimate setting of 400 people, that'd be pretty epic for my dollars.
No, I agree, and it's been fun to make that happen. Like I said, I think it'll be a fun Friday night. That's for sure. It'll be a late Friday night because, like to your point, we're going from like 10 to 3. So the Barnstable Browns, some of these other ones in around midnight. So we'll get some. We'll probably get some people from those parties that'll trickle into ours. But hey, that's all good, man. It'll be fun to welcome some people to our Party Horse party.
Yeah, you never know. Local celebrities like Jack Harlow could show up. I'd just throw that out there and maybe speak it into fruition for you.
Oh, I don't think there's anything speaking to it. I think there's a good chance old Jack might stop by. So you never know.
That's good. There's nothing like the hottest name in rap music showing up at your party. So we've talked a lot about what got you here. What's the next 3 months to a year look like for you all?
Yeah, it'll be busy. We've got the bottles we've got to get out, right? That's the big thing that, if you're in our Discord, God bless, we get probably 5 times a day. Hey, when are the bottles coming out? It's like, guys, you're up to date when we are. So we'll start getting those bottles out early, let's say summertime. And like I said, we've got a mutual partner that that's going to help us with that, which will make it easy. So getting the bottles out is going to be a big task. We've got some cities that have some high density of folks where we want to go and do a happy hour, do a small event. So we'll do some of that in New York, South Florida, Southern California, a couple other cities. So there'll be some more in-person events, in real world events. We've got a number of people reaching out on the partnership side, whether that be through, doing merchandise. We'll be rolling that out as well. We've got another roadmap where there'll be some interesting things that can come from the art. But, really the cool thing that we just started last week was Wagner's Pharmacy, which is a local staple here in Louisville. They are, for those that aren't aware of Wagner's, it's a diner / pharmacy directly across the street from Churchill Downs. And they're coming up on their 100-year anniversary this year. And they reached out, and it's kind of the who's who, goes there on Derby Week to grab breakfast. I mean, it's a good old grease spoon diner. It's phenomenal food. You should go if you've never been. But I mean, it'll be slammed all Derby Week. And they had reached out and they said, hey, would you guys like to do some form of a partnership? And I'm like, hell yeah, man. I love Wagner's and what they stand for and what they're about. And it's really kind of an interesting, collaboration when you look at it, because you got a group that's done it the right way and traditional in 100 years. And you've got a digital art company that's been around for 4 months and pushing the envelope. And so we've got some really cool merchandise that we're doing with those guys, with some hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, maybe a couple other things. So if you're down that way, Derby Week, feel free to stop by. We'll be down there doing some other. They'll have a lot of media down there because of just their 100th anniversary and the connections they have. So that'll be the next most immediate thing we have coming up. But yeah, it'll just be more events. More bourbon. We'll be doing some other cool things with makers that we'll announce probably in the summer with some different cities that we'll do some things with those guys in. And then so events, bourbon. Like I said, we're going to stay true to our core on that end. And there'll be a couple other surprises that we'll throw in there as well. But like I said, we got this big party in 12 days, so we got to get ready for that, and then get some merchandise out the door too.
Focus on the task at hand, right?
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
So Derby Day is right around the corner. And where can people, as this comes out on Monday of Derby Week, where can people find out more about Party Horses? So maybe they can, get one on OpenSea, I think is the best way. Maybe someone's selling their token. Where can people find out more about you all and what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I always just tell people to start at our website, partyhorses.com. I think it does a good job of explaining, what Party Horses is, what we're about, where we're going. And then to your point, yeah, if you're looking to buy a Party Horse, it kind of walks you through that. You mentioned OpenSea. Since the horses have already been sold and we're not making any more, OpenSea, if you can almost just want to look at it like the secondary market, like an eBay for NFTs. And so you can buy in there. We also have what's called a Party Horses pregame drink. And so those are 6 different alcohol drinks that Robbie drew. That's a separate collection, but those can also get you access to a bottle as well. So that's a little cheaper price point, but you'll get a bottle of makers with that as well that we did in collaboration. So Just be careful if you click on that. Just make sure the bottle hasn't been redeemed yet. There's a drop down on there if you buy one on the pregame drinks that'll say that. I just want someone that wants the bourbon to buy it and realize, oh crap, it's already been redeemed. So that's another way if you're looking to just to get the bourbon out of this and kind of dip your toe in. That's one way to do it. And then if you're interested in the party, you can buy tickets on OpenSea as well. And all that's spelled out for you on our website, partyhorses.com.
So for people like Scott and I, go read the website really well so you don't mess it up if you want to go party with the Party Horses.
Yeah.
Check the show notes.
Yeah.
See some details there.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, and we're a very open, transparent group. I mean, if you're on Twitter, feel free to send us a direct message and we'll answer all those. And, if there's any questions or, I take Zoom meetings with people all the time that are all throughout the country asking questions and walking them through stuff. So happy to help on the customer service lens as well.
Yeah, well, Chris, we really appreciate it. This has been awesome. It's super enlightening, and no better time to highlight this than Derby Week. So we really appreciate getting together to talk to the Bourbon Lens, and we're excited to get this out. As always, thanks everybody for listening to another episode of the Bourbon Lens. We really appreciate it. Please rate us, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast listening app. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at Bourbon Lens. And as always, if you want exclusive access to content, you don't need an NFT or a Coinbase wallet. You can just go over to patreon.com/Bourbon Lens and you can sign up for exclusive access. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris. We really appreciate it, man.